Hello children, today we'll do The Summer of the Beautiful White Horse written by William Saroyan. William Saroyan was an Armenian-American novelist, playwright and short story writer. He was awarded the Pulitzer Prize of Drama in 1940 and in 1943 won the Academy Award for Best Story for the film adaptation of his novel, The Human Comedy. Saroyan wrote extensively about the Armenian immigrant life in California. His stories were often autobiographical. Like Murad and Aram in the story, he was the son of an Armenian immigrant. The Summer of the Beautiful White Horse is set in the San Joaquin Valley in California. If we talk about the title, it seems quite appropriate, as the story revolves around a beautiful white horse. In this, the horse represents several things to the boys in this story. The first would be a sense of indescribable beauty of the horse. This is something that allows them to understand that while it was wrong to steal the horse, it might be comprehensible that they did so. The boy's life is one of struggle, both emotional and material. The horse represents a brief moment of escape from the setting. At the same time, the horse represents a moment of redemption for the boys. The return of the horse and its acknowledgement by John Byro of the good deed done helps them to experience a moment of humanity and dignity. The story is narrated by a 9-year-old Armenian boy named Aram, a member of the Garoglanian tribe living among the lush fruit orchards and vineyards of the San Joaquin Valley in California. In spite of being poor, the Garoglanian tribe is noted for its honesty and trust. Now let's start the chapter. One day back there in the good old days when I was 9. As I told you, the narrator is Aram. So he's talking about himself. He was 9 years old, and the world was full of every imaginable kind of magnificence. Magnificence, he's talking about the beauty, all kind of beauty, extremely beautiful. Everything was beautiful, and life was still a delightful and mysterious dream. So life was still delightful and a beautiful dream for that small boy. My cousin Murad, who was considered crazy by everybody who knew him except me, came to my house at 4 in the morning and woke me up tapping on the window of my room. Aram, he said. So at 4 o'clock in the morning, there was a knock at the window, and when he woke up, he saw his cousin, his cousin brother Murad, knocking at the window, and he was sitting at a beautiful white horse. I jumped out of bed and looked out of the window. I couldn't believe what I saw. So he couldn't believe the thing which he saw outside the window. It wasn't morning yet. It was still dark as it was 4 o'clock, but it was summer. And with daybreak not many minutes around the corner of the world, it was light enough for me to know I wasn't dreaming. So, though it was not, there was no light, but still the daybreak was about to be, and that is why it was light enough for me to know I wasn't dreaming. So that light showed that he wasn't dreaming. My cousin Murad was sitting on a beautiful white horse. I stuck my head out of the window and rubbed my eyes. Why did he rub his eyes? Because he couldn't believe that actually his cousin was sitting on a white horse. Yes, he said in Armenian, language of Armenia, you can say, it's a horse, you are not dreaming. So it's a real horse and you are not dreaming. Make it quick if you want to ride. So Murad said, if you want to ride, then quickly come out. I knew my cousin Murad enjoyed being alive more than anybody else who had ever fallen into the world by mistake. But this was more than even I could believe. So he knew, Murad knew very well how to enjoy the life. But this thing, the existence of this white horse, was something which couldn't be believed easily. In the first place, my earliest memories had been memories of horses, and my first longings had been longings to ride. So, this small boy, Aram, who's 9 year old only, his memories had been memories of horses. He liked horses so much, and his longings, that is his desire. His desire was to ride the horse. This was the wonderful part. In the second place, we were poor. But though it was his dream, but he knew that they are poor. This was the part that wouldn't permit me to believe what I saw. And that is why you couldn't believe that they are so poor, they couldn't manage the food for them. Then how could they manage to buy such a horse? We were poor, we had no money. Our whole tribe was poverty stricken. So every branch of the Garoglanian and Armenian tribe family was living in the most amazing and comical poverty in the world. Most amazing and comical, why it has been said? Because nobody could understand where we ever got money enough to keep us with food in our bellies. So though they did not have any money, they were so poor they couldn't manage to buy something, but still they, how they get the food, how they get the money to buy that food, that they never could believe. Not even the old men of the family. So not even the old man knew that how they get the food for the family. Most important of all, though, we were famous for our honesty. Another thing is that they were very famous for their honesty. We had been famous for our honesty for something like 11 centuries. So, for 11 centuries, they had been famous for their centuries. Even when we had been the wealthiest family in what we liked to think was the world. So, earlier, before these 11 centuries, they were very rich. They were the wealthiest family anybody could think about them. They were so rich. We were proud first, honest next. And after that, we believed in right and wrong. So they were proud of themselves, then they became honest. And after that, they believed that what is wrong and what is right. None of us would take advantage of anybody in the world, let alone steal. So they did not know how to take advantage of others, and stealing is far away from all these things. Consequently, even though I could see the horse so magnificent, so you can say so beautiful, even though I could smell it, he could smell the, you can say, smell of that horse. So lovely it was. Even though I could hear it breathing, so he could hear the breaths of the horse also. So exciting it was for him. I couldn't believe the horse had anything to do with my cousin Murad. So he couldn't believe that how can such a poor person can get a beautiful horse like this, or with me, or with any of the other members of a family. Not only with Murad, not with him, but also with the whole family. Nobody could afford to buy such a horse, asleep or awake, because I knew my cousin Murad couldn't have bought the horse. And if he couldn't have bought it, it must have stolen. So if it is not bought, then it is understood that it had been stolen. And I refused to believe he had stolen it. And he refused to believe. Why? Because it was his, you can say, dream, his deepest desire to ride on the horse. And when he saw this horse, if he's going to believe that it had been stolen, he wouldn't be able to ride this horse. So he kept that thought away that it had been stolen. No member of the Garoglanian family could be a thief. And another reason was their honesty, their trust, their truth. So that cannot be broken. No member can be a thief. I stared first at my cousin and then at the horse. There was a pious stillness and humor in each of them. So he could feel the piousness, the holiness, the stillness, the humor also in them, which on the one hand delighted me and on the other hand frightened me. So mixed feelings were there. So on one hand he was happy also, and on the other hand he was scared also. Murad, I said, where did you steal this horse? So he directly questioned in such a way because he knew he couldn't afford to buy the horse. So where did you steal this horse from? Leap out of the window. He said, if you want to ride. So he ignored his question and told him to jump out from his window to ride it on the horse. It was true then. So because he ignored the question, it was clear that it was true. He had stolen the horse. There was no question about it. He had come to invite me to ride or not as I chose. Well, it seemed to me stealing a horse for a ride was not the same thing as stealing something else, such as money. All I knew, maybe it wasn't stealing at all. If you were crazy about horses the way my cousin Murad and I were, it wasn't stealing. So, how did he justify this stealing? He told to himself that if money has been stolen, it could be considered as stealing. But this is a horse, and they both were crazy about horses. So it is not stealing at all. It wouldn't become stealing until we offered to sell the horse, which of course I knew we would never do. So it would be stealing if we have stolen this horse and sold it to another person. Then, of course, it would be stealing, but we are never going to do this. Let me put on some clothes, I said. All right, he said, but hurry. I leaped into my clothes. I jumped down to the yard from the window and leaped up onto the horse behind my cousin Murad. So he was so excited to ride the horse, he neglected all the thoughts and he jumped out from the window into the yard and from there onto the horse. And he was sitting behind his cousin Murad. That year we lived at the edge of town on Walnut Avenue. So where are they living? Walnut Avenue. Behind our house was the country. Country is the outskirts of the, you can say, village area or the outskirts of the city. Vineyards, what are there? Plantation of grapevines, which are used in my wine making. Orchards, lot of fruit gardens were there. Irrigation ditches were there. They were to deliver water to homes, industries, and other uses. And country roads. And the small roads you can see, those are the village roads. In less than 3 minutes, we were on Olive Avenue. And then the horse began to trot. So, less than 3 minutes, the horse was so fast that they proceeded and they reached the Olive Avenue. The air was new and lovely to breathe because they were living in such a suffocating environment where there was poverty and they could not afford the food also properly. They have been, it was a, you can say, a bad condition for these children, and they have got this new and lovely air to breathe. They were feeling free. They could feel the freedom while they are riding the horse. The feel of the horse running was wonderful. My cousin Murad, who was considered one of the craziest members of our family, began to sing. So he was thoroughly enjoying this riding, and that is why he started singing. I mean, he began to roar, not only sing, but he was shouting and singing the songs like he was very happy riding the horse. Every family has a crazy streak in it somewhere. So, in every family, there is one member who you can say is crazy or is different from others, whom you can easily identify, or he works according to himself. So, and my cousin Murad was considered the natural descendant of the crazy streak in our tribe. So he was, Murad was also crazy member of his family, you can say. And this craziness he has got from one of the person in his tribe only, not his father, but someone else. Let's see who is he. Before him was our uncle Khusro, an enormous man with a powerful head of black hair and the largest mustache in the San Joaquin Valley. So, this man, Uncle Khusro, he is another person who has the same crazy streak. The appearance has been given here, head of black hair and largest mustache. So, this particular valley is one of the long interior valley of California and very famous also. A man so furious in temper, so irritable. So this man was so furious in temper and he was like an irritating character, you can say. So impatient that he stopped anyone from talking by roaring. So he used to shout, he used to roar, he used to speak very loudly, and by this he could stop anyone who is speaking. And his signature dialogue was the only dialogue which he used to speak. You can say his patent dialogue, his signature dialogue was, "It is no harm, pay no attention to it." So this was the dialogue of Uncle Khusro. It is no harm, pay no attention to it. That was all, no matter what anybody happened to be talking about. Once it was his own son Arik running 8 blocks to the barber's shop. So one day, what happened? Uncle Khusro was at the barber's shop, and Arik came. Arik was his son, okay, and he came running to him at the barber's shop where his father was having his mustache trimmed to tell him their house was on fire. So why did he run and came to the barber's shop? To tell him that their house was on fire. This man Khusrov sat up in the chair and roared. And he was sitting in the chair and he roared, he shouted, "It is no harm, pay no attention to it." So again, he spoke his signature dialogue, his one and only dialogue, "It is no harm, pay no attention to it." House got on fire, and you can see the humor over here, that how this man used to dominate others. Enough, it is no harm, I say. But the boy says, "Your house is on fire," the barber said. So he said that your house is on fire. Then also he shouted again, "Enough, it is no harm, I say." So he repeated, he did not listen to them also. My cousin Murad was considered the natural descendant of this man. So he was considered the natural descendant of this man. He had got the qualities of this man, you can say. Although Murad's father was Zurab, who was practical and nothing else. So, what was the name of Murad's father? It was Zurab. Okay, Zurab is the name, and he was very practical. He did not have any of these qualities. He was very practical. That's how it was in our tribe. A man could be the father of his son's flesh, but that did not mean that he was also the father of his spirit. So, in their tribe, it is not always the same thing, that what qualities the father have, the son will also have. The distribution of the various kinds of spirit of a tribe had been from the beginning capricious. So it is from the beginning like this only, that the people have different moods. There is change in mood. And vagrant. Vagrant means they are not settled at one place. They keep on moving from one place to another. We rode and my cousin Murad sang. So they were riding and they were enjoying, and Murad was singing. For all anybody knew, we were still in the old country where, at least according to some of our neighbors, we belonged. So they were still in the old country part, and some of the neighbors knew that they belonged to which family. We let the horse run as long as it felt like running. So they were continuing their ride. At last, my cousin Murad said, "Get down, I want to ride alone. Will you let me ride alone?" I asked. So, when Murad asked him that, "You get down, I want to ride alone," then in return, Aram also asked, "Will you let me also ride alone?" "That is up to the horse," my cousin said, "Get down." And he told that it is up to the horse. If the horse allows you to sit at his back, then you can. Otherwise, you can't. "The horse will let me ride," I said. So Aram was, you can see how innocent he was. He also wanted to ride the horse. So he said, "The horse will let me ride." He didn't know anything about the horse. "We shall see," he said. "Don't forget that I have a way with a horse." Now, this is very important. When he says that I have a way with a horse, he knew how to convince the animals very well. You can say a good bonding was there between him and the animals. We'll see it further also. And not only with animals, but with human beings also. He knew how to deal with them. "Well," I said, "any way you have with a horse, I have also." So he was younger than him, and Adam said, "Okay, I know you have a way with a horse, but I also have. For the sake of your safety," he said, "let us hope so. Get down." So he got down. "All right," I said, "but remember, you have got to let me to ride alone." He said, "Okay, I will come down, but then I will also ride alone." I got down, and my cousin Murad kicked his heels into the horse and shouted, "Wazire, run." So Wazire, you can say he was calling the horse as Wazire, and you can say it is a name kind. The horse stood on its hind legs, snorted, and burst into a fury. So he was on his hind legs, you can say the back legs, and with full of anger, he started the speed, and that was the loveliest thing I had ever seen. My cousin Murad raced the horse across the field of dry grass to an irrigation ditch. So, from the dry grass to irrigation ditch, he reached there, crossed the ditch on the horse, and 5 minutes later returned dripping wet. So, 5 minutes because he was in the water, so he was dripping wet. The sun was coming. Now it's my turn to ride, I said. My cousin Murad got off the horse. Ride, he said. So he got off the horse. I leaped to the back. Leaped means jumped to the back of the horse, and for a moment knew the most awful fear imaginable. So he was very scared. Once he sat on the back of the horse, the horse did not move. Kick into his muscles, my cousin Murad said. What are you waiting for? We have got to take him back before everybody in the world is up and about. So he was worried that if everyone will wake up, then he'll be caught. That is why he told him to make the horse move quickly. But the horse was not moving. I kicked into the muscles of the horse. Once again, it reared, it raised and snorted, breathed out. Then it began to run. I didn't know what to do. So there was no control of him over the horse, you can see. Instead of running across the field to the irrigation ditch, the horse ran down the road to the vineyard of Dikran Halabian, where it began to leap over vines. So it is the name of that vineyard. And there he went, and he began to jump over vines. So that is what he has done. The horse leaped over 7 vines before I fell. So he jumped over 7 miles, and finally he fell down. Then it continued running. So the horse continued running, and he was left on the ground. My cousin Murad came running down the road. I'm not worried about you, he shouted. We have got to get that horse. You go this way, and I'll go this way. If you come up upon him, be kindly. I'll be near. So he instructs him that I'm not worried about you. Let's go and find the horse. So you go in one direction, I'll go in the other, and we'll meet here only. This is the same point where we are going to meet again. I continued down the road, and my cousin Murad went across the field towards the irrigation ditch. It took him half an hour to find the horse and bring him back. So, how much half an hour? That means the day had already broke, and now it was light all over the area. All right, he said, jump on. The whole world is awake now. What will we do? I said. Well, said we'll either take him back or hide him until tomorrow morning. So either they are going to take him back or they'll hide him somewhere. He didn't sound worried, and I knew he would hide him and not take him back, not for a while at any rate. So he knew he's going to hide him. I know a place, he said. How long ago did you steal this horse? I said. It suddenly dawned on me. So suddenly Aram was curious to know that when did he steal this horse? So he asked. It appeared in his mind, or it clicked in his mind, that he had been taking these early morning rides for some time and had come for me this morning only because he knew how much I longed to ride. So the way he was riding the horse, he guessed that he must be riding him for quite a long time. And because I also love to ride the horses, that is why he has come to me today in the morning. Who said anything about stealing a horse? He said. Anyhow, I said, how long ago did you begin riding every morning? So he again asked that how long? Now until this morning, he said. He said that you know until this morning only. Are you telling the truth? I said. Of course not, he said. If we are found out, that's what you are to say. So at least if you will be caught, then you are not going to say a lie. You will be saying the truth that today morning only you have got the horse. I don't want both of us to be liars. All of us know is that we started riding this morning. So I don't want both of us to lie. All right, I said. He walked the horse quietly to the barn of a deserted vineyard, which at one time had been the pride of a farmer named Fatvizian. So there were some oats and dry alfalfa. Alfalfa is a flowering plant in the barn. Barn is the area where these oats and all the things are kept, you can say storehouse kind place. So there they tied this horse because nobody was there at that moment. We began walking home. It wasn't easy, he said, to get the horse to behave so nicely. So it wasn't easy. He had taken a long time to train the horse. At first, it wanted to run wild, but as I've told you, I have a way with a horse. So he told him how he has trained this horse. Earlier, the horse was not like this. It was very wild, and slowly, because I know the way to tackle the horses, that is why I was able to tame him like this. I can get it want to do anything I want it to do. Horses understand me. So he also says that there is an understanding between the horse and him. How do you do it? I said. So obviously anybody would be curious that how do you do it? I have an understanding with a horse, he said. Yes, but what sort of an understanding? I said. A simple and honest one, he said. So this is the conversation which is going on between the two cousins. Well, I said, I wish I knew how to reach an understanding like that with a horse. He also wanted to learn that understanding. You're still a small boy, he said. When you get to be 13, you'll know how to do it. So you are still a small boy, and when you will become 13 years old, definitely you will also learn. I went home and ate a hearty breakfast. So he was so happy that a good breakfast he had when he went to his home. That afternoon, my uncle Khusro, you remember we had talked about him, came to our house for coffee and cigarettes. He sat in the parlor. Parlor is the sitting area of the house, sipping and smoking, remembering the old country. You can see how people gather and enjoy and talk. Then another visitor arrived, a farmer named John Byro. So this is very important character. Is John Byro is a farmer by profession, an Assyrian who, out of loneliness, he was an Assyrian, but because he was lonely, he had learned to speak Armenian because everyone needs company, and to talk to them, he had to learn their language. My mother brought the lonely visitor coffee and tobacco, and he rolled a cigarette and sipped and smoked. And then at last, sighing sadly, he said, my white horse, which was stolen last month, is still gone. I cannot understand it. So finally, he talked about his horse, which was lost, and my uncle Khusro became very irritated and shouted, it's no harm. What is the loss of a horse? Haven't we all lost the homeland? What is this crying over a horse? So, because they are the immigrants, I told you they migrate from one place to another. So, already they are missing their homeland. And when he told about his horse, he got irritated and he told, it's no harm. You remember the signature dialogue? It's no harm. So, what is the loss of a horse? He told, horse is nothing. We have lost our homeland also. That may be all right for you, a city dweller, to say, John Byro said, but what of my Surrey? What good is a Surrey? So he says that because you are a city dweller, you come from one place and then settle at another. So it is not going to make any difficulty for you, but it is very difficult for me because Surrey is a place, a country in southeast England. Without a horse, it is very difficult to manage to go from one place to another. So again, Khusro, Uncle Khusro got angry, irritated, and he started speaking. Pay no attention to it. I walked 10 miles to get here, John Byro said. And he told, I have to walk 10 miles because my horse is missing. I have to come on my legs and my legs are paining. So pay no attention to it. Again, my uncle Khusro wrote, that horse cost me $60, the farmer said. That it is, I have bought that horse for $60. I spit on money, my uncle Khusro said. He got up and stalked out of the house, slamming the screen door. So he got so irritated that he got up and stalked out of the house, slamming the screen door, the main door. My mother explained he has a gentle heart, and she said it is simply that he is homesick and such a large man. So she was just advocating, you can say, Uncle Khusro, that he's very nice, but because he is homesick, that is why he's behaving in this way. The farmer went away and I ran over to my cousin Murad's house. So now Aram understood everything, that this white horse actually belongs to the farmer John Byro. So he ran to his cousin to tell him that he is searching for his horse. He was sitting under a peach tree. Who? Murad. Murad was sitting under a peach tree, trying to repair the hurt wing of a young robin which could not fly. So, a robin is a small bird, so which couldn't fly, and he was wing was hurt. So he was just repairing it. He was trying to heal that bird. What is it? He said. The farmer John Byro, I said, he visited a house. He wants his horse. You have had it a month. I want you to promise not to take it back until I learn to ride. So already a month has passed since it is with Murad. And now this boy Aram, who also belong to this tribe where honesty is everything, but still he also got into the, you can say, greed of riding the horse and learning how to ride the horse. That is why he told him not to give it back until he learns to ride. It will take you a year to learn to ride, my cousin Murad said. We could keep the horse a year, I said. So you are so small, you'll take 1 year to ride this horse. He said, okay, this horse, we can keep this horse for a year. My cousin Murad leaped to his feet. He stood up, he jumped on his feet. What? He roared. Are you inviting a member of the Garaglanian family to steal? So you are inviting, or you are telling to family to steal. The horse must go back to its true owner. So the horse must go back to its true owner. When? I said. In 6 months at the latest, he said. He threw the bird into the air. The bird tried hard, almost fell twice, but at last flew away high and straight. So again, you can see the bonding between Murad and the bird. Like earlier, he was having with the horse. He said he is having a way with the horse. In the same way, he made the robin bird also to fly. Early every morning for 2 weeks, my cousin Murad and I took the horse out of the barn of the deserted vineyard where we were hiding it and rode it. And every morning, the horse, when it was my turn to ride alone, leaped over grapevines and small trees and threw me and ran away. So every day it was happening the same. For 2 weeks, they had been riding the horse. But whenever it was the chance of Aram to ride the horse, the horse made him fall down. Nevertheless, I hoped in time to learn to ride the way my cousin Murad rode. So you can see this Aram is quite impressed by his cousin. The way he deals with the horse, with the bird, and with other people, he is very impressed. One morning on the way to Fatwazian's deserted vineyard, we ran into the farmer John Byro, who was on his way to town. So, whom did they meet on the way? They met John Byro. And horse was also with them. Let me do the talking, my cousin Murad said. And he told, I will handle this situation. I have a way with farmers. Again, he said, I have a way with farmers. So you can see that this you can call the signature dialogue of Murad, like the signature dialogue of Uncle Khusro was there. So he also used to speak the same thing, that I have a way with farmers. Let's see how he deals with him. Good morning, John Byro. My cousin Murad said to the farmer. The farmer studied the horse eagerly, but farmer was looking at the horse only. Good morning, son of my friends. So his father was his friend. That is why he's saying, what is the name of your horse? My heart, my cousin Murad said in Armenian. He said, the name of my horse is my heart. A lovely name, John Byro said, for a lovely horse. I could swear it is the horse that was stolen from me many weeks ago. So he directly said this thing, that I can vow that this is the same horse which has been stolen from me. May I look into his mouth? Of course, Murad said. The farmer looked into the mouth of the horse. Tooth for tooth, he said. I would swear it is my horse. So he again says the same thing, that I would swear it is my horse. But then he adds these things. If I didn't know your parents, the fame of your family for honesty is well known to me. So the fame, the reputation which your family have for honesty, that cannot be replaced. Yet the horse is the twin of my horse. Then also I would say that it is the complete replica of my horse. A suspicious man would believe his eyes instead of his heart. So if it would be a suspicious man, he would definitely believe his eyes. But I am not like that. I believe my heart. Good day, my young friends. So he says this and moves from there. Good day, John Byro, my cousin Murad said. So this is how they bid him goodbye. Early the following morning, we took the horse to John Byro's vineyard and put it in the barn. The dogs followed us around without making a sound. Now, see how this Murad deals with all the animals. They had left this horse at John Byro's vineyard and put it in the barn. There were a lot of dogs of John Byro, but then they did not make a sound at all. The dogs, I whispered to my cousin Murad, I thought they would bark. So he again noticed that why didn't these dogs bark? They would at somebody else. He said, I have a way with dogs. So he again repeated his dialogue that I have a way with dogs. That is why they did not bark. My cousin Murad put his arms around the horse, pressed his nose into the horse's nose, patted it, and then we went away. So that kind of affection which he had with the horse from so many days, he patted him and you can say told him goodbye in this sense. That afternoon, John Byro came to our house in his surrey and showed my mother the horse that had been stolen and returned. So he showed to his mother that this is the horse which was stolen and now it has been returned. I do not know what to think, he said. The horse is stronger than ever. So I don't know what to think about it. The horse is more stronger than before, better tempered too, better controlled, better, you can say, trained. I thank God my uncle Khusro, who was in the parlor, became irritated and shouted. So he thanked God for his uncle Khusro, who shouted at that time, Quiet, man, quiet. Your horse has been returned. Pay no attention to it. So he made him shut his mouth. Otherwise, he would have told the reality to his mother. So that is how the story ends. You can see the beauty of the white horse has been described beautifully in this story. It is about, you can say, the dreams of Aaron. He must have dreamt of the horses, and when he saw this horse, suddenly he was also attracted and wanted to ride this horse. That is all. Thank you, children.